DECONSTRUCTION.
What's up, everybody? It's the Hard Deconstruction. You can find us at harddeconstruction.tumblr.com, youtube.com/harddeconstruction, as well as facebook.com/thehardyconstruction with your host, Alex, and
Pity the fool.
and today's film is
Teeth?
Teeth is a 2007 comedy horror thriller directed by Mitchell Lichtenstein. Wow.
Do you know who he is? I just read this. He is the son of Roy Lichtenstein,
The artist?
who is a famous pop artist.
Wow. Wait, that's the guy who rips off everybody else's artwork, right?
No, he did like that pixelated comic booky style, like with the dots.
Yeah, no, you know what he does? He repurposes other people's arts and changes the color. There was a whole big thing about it last year where artists were selling his art repurposed because he repurposed somebody else's art.
Well, I think he used old comic strips and stuff.
Regardless, that's somebody else's artwork he didn't pay to use in his new pieces. This is like an art discussion. Yeah, it's like if you drew something 10 years ago and he used it, he repurposed it and digitized the coloring and then sold it as a piece for a lot of money, and you got no mention or money for it.
Well, you know what I'm going to do in that case? I'm going to poop some pixels on Roy Lichtenstein.
Nice. Still a stranger to her own body, a high school student discovers she has a physical advantage when she becomes the object of male violence. It's written by Mitchell Lichtenstein as well. Stars Jess Weixler, John Hensley, Josh Pais. So
you know who could have used this? The chick from I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, she ended up using teeth after all, so whatever. Oh no, she's a razor blade, right? Something like that.
She kills them.
Yeah. So this film is about
Lorena Bobbitt could have used this.
Oof. Can you imagine? He was asleep, and he woke up like that with just.
Didn't she throw it out the window? She should have thrown it in the blender.
She was driving.
Could you imagine a juiced penis?
Oof. She was driving in the highway, or she was driving out of the neighborhood and threw it out of the window of her car, because I guess he was abusive to her. Did you ever see the photos of him with the penis reattached?
No, I know he was in Playboy though. He was featured.
He had like 2 pornos too. Apparently he had to use like 10 injections into his penis to get it hard. So
that's. Could you imagine
if anybody knows what we're talking about?
Somebody and you're just like, oh, hold on, you put this little suitcase filled with all these needles and have to inject your penis 10 times.
Yeah, imagine that you're making out with. If anybody knows what we're talking about, it's John Bobbitt. Just Google him. Can you imagine you're making out with some hot chick? And yeah. Hold on for a second. Then you're gonna break out a whole big Samsonite thing with 10 needles in it, injecting it into your balls.
By the time it's done, you're not even horny anymore.
But he's using it to get horny. She's probably off to another guy, but whatever. So Teeth, this film. What's your history on it? Because you were really adamant about watching this film. You kept mentioning it since a long time ago.
It's a movie I've been wanting to watch forever, or seen tiny little bits of it, but, it's just, I have so many movies that I'm really bad with, seeing things.
You think this podcast...
So this show gives me an excuse to always watch new movies.
Same here. So this film, how does it start out?
It starts out in this... Oh, no, it starts out in a little pool with 2 little kids, and, the little boy tries to finger the little girl, and he gets bit on the finger.
I think the most... it was funny. Apparently, reading the trivia on IMDb, during the filming of the first scene, many of the neighbors were protesting the film because they believed it to be a pornographic movie. I don't know if it's that scene, but it was one of the scenes. And I think it's very obvious that the film is hinting towards this girl who if you're watching the film, you don't know what it's about. I mean, it's sold that this girl has teeth in her vagina. And the opening shot is of this nuclear site, right? Like a nuclear...
it shows. It's kind of like a trauma nod, I think, or something.
That's exactly how I felt. I felt like this was highbrow trauma for some reason. And also the idea that her mother has cancer. So. And
I could have sworn that the girl was Lumen from Dexter.
Really?
She looks like her, or at least how I remember. It's been a while since I've seen the that season. But what's her name in real life?
Sidney Poitier. No, it's with a K, isn't it? Kristen. Oh no, is it? I met her once in real life. Not that I would meet her in my dreams.
It doesn't matter.
She reminded me of the actress, a more attractive version. I just asked you the name of the actor from the film 1408. His sister Joan Joan.
Crawford. Cusack.
Crawford. Joan Cusack. A little bit with the eyes, like she has those big crazy blue eyes.
Is that Cindy Crawford? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yes. Anyway, the whole gag of the film and is about this girl is a pair of like vagina dentata. If anybody knows about that, it's like these old school.
We learned about them in art history.
Did you?
Yeah. Like certain paintings would have it and stuff.
I learned about like contrapposto with my fucking history teacher. It was art school. It was interesting.
Contrapposto.
Yeah, this is a contrapposto movie. But what a funny story about what my art history teacher, my first one. He kind of looked like Gene Simmons because he was like this older guy with frazzled long hair and a beard. And
would he dress up like Gene Simmons and come to class sometimes?
I wish that would have made the class way more bearable. But you could tell he was one of those guys that took himself really serious. The way he spoke, I wish I remembered what his name was.
Artsy fartsy people.
Oh my god, he was so that. But he was like kind of the rock star artsy fartsy. But he was like.
He and Alex met at art school.
He was.
For anyone curious.
They don't give a shit. And he was like in his late 40s.
Oh, what the hell was my name today?
I asked you, and you said it, didn't you?
I don't remember.
So anyway, I remember seeing him on the train once off school day, and he was like making out with this other lady with tongues out, and I was like, what the fuck, man? He was just like, he was a character, and that was no reason for me to bring that up for the show. But anyway, so this girl was born with vagina dentata. Apparently she doesn't know that she has vagina dentata, so I'm assuming her teeth.
Well, she doesn't know that it's weird, and the reason they explain.
No, I don't think she knows that she has that. Like, I don't think she's been deep enough.
Well, she doesn't even know what a vagina really looks like, I don't even think.
Which is weird that her mother hasn't taught her anything. It's funny because her mother's dying of cancer, some form of cancer. She has a stepfather who has a son who's a piece of shit. Which I always don't get when characters, like her stepbrother, there's something wrong with his face, right? Like,
is that what it was? I thought she was, like, adopted or something.
No, I think that woman was her mother, and she was married to this guy who had a stepson. The guy says it in the film. The stepbrother says, "You had to marry her, and she became my sister." So it was that. So obviously they were from already a split family, kind of like the Brady Bunch, but with like cancer and vagina dentata. And the brother is the stepbrother is played by Josh Hensley, playing this kid Brad, who when he's a kid he's like a little piece of shit. He looks like a girl
to me.
He looks like he's had a lot of plastic surgery in his face, but I don't know whether. You know, it kind of reminds me of if you've ever seen, oh god, what's her name? Angelina Jolie's brother. How he kind of looks like Angelina Jolie, but he looks like an elf, like kind of like he has plastic surgery. And a lot of people. Okay. And I visited the guy's IMDb page, and apparently everybody thinks he looks like Michael Jackson. I don't really see it, but whatever.
Oh.
So he grows up to be this real piece of shit. What is like an angry
death metal anal sex guy?
Yeah, he's only having anal sex with his girlfriend because apparently that whole finger in the vagina thing scared him. That it bit him, so he has that idea. The whole
imagine being so scared of vaginas that you only want to have anal sex.
Yeah.
I wonder if something happened to me.
I think that's the whole thing with. Never mind. So the whole thing with vagina dentata, it's like an old myth. I always used to hear it racially about it was about like Asian girls. They used to say two things about Asian girls when you were young and you were stupid. They would say either vaginas were sideways, and they had teeth in their vagina that would bite your penis off. For some reason, I don't know why this was said. This was like in Catholic school as a kid. They would tell these stories. Yeah, like any of these kids.
You grew up in a weird place, maybe.
Maybe it was just because it was Catholic school. That's why it was weird. But yeah, that whole idea about, and I think it was. I think they mention it too in the film, the old story about the guy having sex with this woman and his penis is bitten off. It's a whole thing. It's very weird, but a lot of the times I think that might have been kind of played onto this old actual tale of this woman who cut off her lover's penis because she was angry with him, and then she walked through the streets with it.
She put a bear trap in her vagina, thus starting the myth.
But it's weird that her mother didn't really say anything about okay, anybody at home, let's see when you can tell when the bad edit happens. Tell anything to her about having a special vagina. Maybe she didn't know, actually. She didn't really explain to her about vagina.
Maybe the teeth only come out when she's threatened, is what I think.
Yeah, that's what I figured what it is, too. But I don't think her mother really explained to her about vaginas in general. Not that the mother would know that she had teeth in her vagina.
I mean, do you think her mother tried fingering her once and didn't get bit? Maybe that means that she's in love with her mother. She didn't like when the little boy fingered her.
Could be that. But also, let's try this idea instead. That how the girl got into this whole lifestyle of promise rings and all that stuff, which is a very religious thing. She's very by the book. Although her family didn't seem very religious.
No, not at all.
Do you think maybe she got into religion because her mother was sick with cancer? Or
I don't know, but I mean, her whole school seemed to be religious.
I think it was a sect. No, because remember we see her with a group of kids that believe this, but then when she goes to school the next morning or the next afternoon, there's people.
Yeah, but that group
pelting
of
her with
kids is
shit.
more fucked up than a normal kids. Even you find out.
We can see that her character Jess is playing this kid named Dawn, who's seemingly very uptight, but you know she's very believes a lot in saving yourself before marriage.
I guess if your vagina had teeth, you would be like a weird uptight person, though.
She's one of the people that tells those speeches to, you know, make sure kids stay on the up and up without losing their vagina. Losing their vagina.
Losing their vagina.
There's a kid named which is a kid? Who's the guy that likes her? Is it Toby? Or
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, Ryan's this kind of. He looks like one of the Jonas Brothers, and obviously.
Wait, is it Ryan? I don't know. Toby.
Toby's the one, right? So Toby is this kid who's extremely attracted. He's attracted to her, but he's also in the same fold of this promise ring group.
He's one of the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, the way this film feels is that it feels just like that other film that we saw a while back, which was called Excision.
Oh yeah, Incision.
No,
Excision. You're right.
Excision was the prequel. It's very much a character study that has a horror element to it.
Yeah,
although
and
this is way more toned
of a comedy than a horror.
Right, and this is way more toned down.
Excision is actually like a dark movie. This is not dark at all.
Right, and it also every guy in this film is a piece of shit rapist for some reason. Like,
pretty much, yeah. I mean, the other guy was even worse. The first guy that raped her or whatever, he wasn't as bad as the second guy, in my opinion.
I think anybody who tries to rape is equally bad. So I'm just
no, but that guy was such a fucking scumbag. The other guy was just like an idiot, kind of. You could tell like he didn't know what he was doing, but the other guy like had it all planned out and shit.
Oh yeah, but he wasn't raping her. At least he had to have sex. Well, he was. Yeah, he was raping her too. Everybody was trying to rape this girl. Everybody. It's almost like moths to a flame. Like she's a flame, and every guy here is a moth with like a raging
Well, luckily
penis.
for her, she has a secret weapon.
Yeah. So.
You know what's the coolest thing about her vagina is that it has like fucking eel teeth in it or something.
Yeah, because we see it break off and cut off penises. At least her vagina is nice and it spits the penis back out. You know what I mean? Just in case.
Yeah, it could just gobble it all up and eat it. You know.
Yeah. Let's get into Let's get into aspects of the film. Did you find it believable the way the pattern of the story goes? Because what did you get out of watching this film? What kind of character Dawn is?
It was kind of fun. It reminded me actually of this movie Saved, which is not a horror movie at all.
Oh, I remember that movie.
Yeah, and it's basically just about this like idiot religious town, and like, you know, the girl is so like stuck in her beliefs, and then she gets pregnant and like realizes that her beliefs are not good and changes them. Mm-hmm. So you get to see this girl go from like all like into purity and all that kind of stuff to like falling into being a normal person, sort of, and then of course, you know, her vagina eats people and stuff, and that's not good. I
think the actress who plays Dawn, Jess Weixler, does really well with the film, because the film does feel kind of, I mean, it is very indie. I mean, it's very strange. I can imagine, you know, writing this film and then trying to convince people to get into it and not thinking it's a complete joke, even though it doesn't take itself very seriously, but it's a very dark, humored kind of movie. So we're basically watching Dawn as she is, you know, coming into womanhood, and she's dealing with the ugly aspect of
how old was she supposed to be? Like 16 or something?
I think she was 16, yeah. And how ugly sex is, and how sex turns people into kind of monsters in a way. Because the first guy she deals with is, you know, she has this like sudden crush with this guy. She's just automatically attracted to him, and it's hard for her to kind of keep her virginity with this guy. And when he forces himself on her, she at this secluded kind of rocky area where a lot of kids come to make out,
Mm.
It's like has this waterfall. It's actually a really beautiful spot. I wonder how they found it. Like, and how do they go
Yeah, I
about
know.
finding
Like,
this
what
spot?
town were they in? I don't even know.
Yeah, and he tries to rape her. He's like, "Oh, I haven't jerked off in how many months?" Because he's
Well, I guess he does. If her vagina actually bit his penis, that means his penis was in her.
yeah, because it spits it right out, and then he disappears for the rest of the film until his body is found later. So now she's left with this, this guilt of what happened, and it's also like a journey of self discovery for this girl, because the school that they're in, everything is so uptight that even
They
their
put giant stickers on the vaginas. And
yeah, in the sex ed class, they're fine showing the penis of the man, because I guess, like, as they say, men's bodies are more like tools while women's bodies are more like works of art, I assume.
Yeah.
And the vagina photo was like covered with a giant sunflower sticker kind of thing, and everybody's like, "What the hell is going on?" And they're doing that just so they don't offend everybody, because I guess this movie makes you kind of wonder how people are offended by
But that
nudity.
also gives her the good understanding of why she's never seen a normal vagina before.
It's still kind of bizarre that her mother wouldn't talk to her about that growing up as a 16-year-old, because apparently, I would
Maybe
assume
her mother looked at her vagina.
I would assume she had periods by then, you know what I mean, and know all about that stuff. Maybe she hadn't had a period. I really don't know. Dawn, the actress, kind of looks older than a teenager in the film. Everybody.
You
kinda
think
looks older.
that the vagina eats the tampon?
Maybe that's what it does. Maybe she thought she could just put it in there, and that's kind of like, it just gets it's warped into a void. She like it saturates into her body. But yeah, the approach of the film, I think, works. But I think it's a little bit too much that every guy in the film was like a fucking rapist.
Well, the brother wasn't really a rapist. He was an asshole.
Yeah, he was a different kind of piece of shit. He didn't like take advantage of her.
I love when the dog eats the penis. Oh
Yeah,
my
this
God.
the ending, you could tell that it's a setup. Once the first boyfriend is trying to rape her, then you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming in a way. So you're kind of wondering how the story goes. I mean, it's obvious what the final battle, quote unquote, was going to be, because they're setting up her stepbrother to be a real piece of shit, and he is. And for her to, obviously she was going to have sex with him at the end. I knew, you could tell from far away, but at least the film is interesting enough and funny enough that you're like, okay, this guy's gonna get his comeuppance at the end, at least hopefully. And now he doesn't, he does try to screw her in the butt. He tries, but she, lets him have it. And,
But he doesn't have to be scared of her vagina. Well, I mean, he does actually, but like,
yeah, she was
if she's the cause of his fear of vaginas, wouldn't he go full circle and try for her vagina again?
I guess that's the whole joke. It's like he's fated to, be that.
Poor butt loving brother. He just wants to have sex with his sister, and he gets a bit finger, he gets a bit penis. It's not fair for him.
How many guys get their penises bit here? About 3-4 guys in this movie get their penises bitten off.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
The first guy, the second guy, him, and then
the doctor gets his hand bitten off. That was cool.
I love that scene.
There's a doctor and there's a lot of people that actually, those doctors do fucking shit. Like, if I was a woman, I would not want a male gynecologist. I don't know. It just makes sense.
I was like, just like watching it, like, wow, this guy's either like the luckiest guy in the world or the creepiest guy in the world.
You gotta think he has to have some good and the bad if you're a gynecologist. Can you imagine? It is gynecologist, right? It makes sense.
It would suck though sometimes, because you'd get somebody with like some green warts that shoot out pus on their vaginas.
I think I dated her. So
you have like a 500-pound, like.
Oh my God, Danny, are you against overweight women with their vaginas? You hear that, ladies?
Well, I said 500. That's pretty extreme. And she'd have like some kind of like slimy flesh-colored tentacle coming out of her vagina, and you have to like smile and go in there.
Yeah. And so he actually he fists her in the movie. So which is very. I remember, I'm sure, I don't know if I brought this up in one of the episodes before, but I remember being in a sexual education class, and this kid was in the background, and he asked generally asked a genuine question. He was like, "I heard girls like getting fisted. Is that true?" And every girl in the classroom gave him the worst look I've ever seen. And he looked around like it was like a fucking, like we were waiting for the audience to laugh like in Saved by the Bell. And I was like, what the fuck, getting fisted? So this
I
doctor.
wish that they had jokes like that in Saved by the Bell.
It was right. Screech. He's
like
trying to,
randomly though, like one out of every 3 episodes would have like a quick joke like that.
Screech was trying to fist Lisa Turtle and stuff. But yeah. So I mean, he tries to fist her, and he gets his. Funny enough, it's only his fingers that are bit off. So you got to wonder how deep into her like cervix these teeth are. And,
these teeth are like, well, they came out when she started freaking out. They, because the guy was having sex with her, remember, and there was no problem at all.
It's
only when she gets angry or scared.
It's very much a reactionary kind of, I think, defense mechanism.
Now, my question is, she lost a tooth. Now, does she have to go to a doctor and get dentures?
She have to brush them? Can you imagine how bad no, never mind.
They probably, yeah, oh my god. Does she have to floss them when she bites a penis off?
Yeah, I gotta
It's
wonder.
like little veins, like spaghetti veins stuck in there.
Oh, God. Geez.
Like little angel hair pastas.
Oh, my God. What did you, actually, that reminded me of this book that I read by Neil Stevenson called Snow Crash. And there's like this 16-year-old girl who has vagina dentata that anybody who puts forcefully penises her. They get like a small dentata that like pokes their penises and knocks them out. So
Penises her.
that's a good.
Is what you just said.
I know.
You referred to having sex as penises.
I'm pretty good at that. So how did you feel? What did you feel was the message of this film? Was it just being funny, or was it kind of like something that?
I mean, it was like a empowered woman kind of film, but I think it was mostly just being silly.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't like some kind of. I mean, this is the kind of film that on paper you'd think it was like almost like a comical, stereotypical feminist would write this movie. You know what I mean? Like if you just heard about it, it's like, oh, this woman taking her power back by using the teeth in her vagina. But it's a lot better than that. It's funny and it's a good character romp and it's good acting. It's good direction.
Yeah, it's not up its own ass at all. It's totally fun.
Yeah, it's not taking itself way too serious. And the girl realizes she has power by the end of the film, that she's this controlling thing. The only problem is that she has to kind of sacrifice her purity every time.
Power!
I did like that old man at the end who was licking his lips because he was expecting her to give him a blowjob in the car.
He had a freaky tongue.
Doyle Carter.
The hell kind of old man was that?
That was played by Doyle Carter, and that guy was awesome. I hope he was in a lot of movies. But yeah, you can tell she was gonna ride cowgirl style, and bite his wiener off. But what do you think were the weak aspects of the film?
I mean, it wasn't really scary at all.
Yeah.
Like, it's a horror movie, so as a horror movie, really not scary, and it could have been gorier for sure.
What did you think about the character? I think it was Toby. Was it Toby or no?
Toby, the first guy?
No, the second guy. I'm sorry. The kid who looked kind of like Jack.
Oh, I hated him. I hate him way worse than Toby.
He looked like Jack White because this character is introduced. This Jack White-looking character is trying to get with her in the beginning, and we're thinking he's this kind of noble kid who's trying to get with this girl because he's attracted to her, and he's a kid from the other side of the tracks who's not into her promise ring site. And he does end up with her, but his scene of seducing her was very rapey, He obviously gave her some date rape drug in her drink, and which kind of knocks her out and makes her. It must have been ecstasy, I think he gave her. She was acting all like into him, so she was kind of getting turned on, and then they had sex. I thought the drug kind of neutralized whatever she had in her body, but then I realized she had sex with him anyway.
She was just comfortable. That was
right.
It.
She was comfortable with him, and she wasn't so uptight about having sex. I guess because she went through that trauma already with the first guy.
Because those teeth are like right there. Because in the very beginning scene, the brother's tip of his finger goes in and it gets bit.
She was a smaller person though back then.
Do you think that the teeth grow back when they fall out, like a shark?
I don't know. I just assumed that nuclear power plant had something to do with this. So I assume it's gonna stay there. And
it'd be cool if this was like one of the girls from Class of Nukem High or whatever. This is what she does afterwards.
Did you like the bit off penis porn? Did it look realistic enough to you?
Yeah, and the dog scene. I just keep thinking about that.
Yeah, the last guy gets his penis bitten off and eaten by his trained dog, his evil, vicious dog.
Mother.
The only like nice character was her stepfather. I think that was it, and he gets like almost bitten to death by the dog. It's a weird movie with weird characters, but I think it all kind of works within its own world, right?
Yeah.
I think that.
I'm just picturing the dog eating it, and then it like, the piercing comes out and everything. Like,
I know, and it's a strange film, and you do get to see the main girl naked, so that's not so bad. But then you think about those teeth, right? That's like scary.
yeah, it's hard to be turned on by somebody when that that they have teeth in her vagina. Imagine like from this point forward in her real life, she's like character. What do they call it when you're cast type or whatever?
Typecast.
Typecast. And now, from now on, any guy she ever tries to date, like, runs in fear.
Probably he's like, "What did I see you from?" And he just kind of leaves lunch and shit like that. He just walks away. But I liked it. I think probably the weakest aspect was that every guy was a piece of shit. But I think they needed to kind of up the almost like the slasher.
There needs to be more reason to bite penis. What's your rating?
I will give this movie. I was gonna give it a 7, but I think I'll give it an 8. An 8 out of 10. Let's see, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Giving it to your old girlfriend, butthole style, because you got bitten on the finger by a vagina when you were a kid.
Okay, I'm gonna go with your original, which is a 7 out of 10, because it is good, but it's not really a horror movie. 7 out of 10. Watching in horror as your dog eats your penis and then spits out the piercing going through the head of your penis.
That scene really stood with you, didn't it?
It really did.
So, Danny, what's the final word?
Sha-sha-sha-gam-pwa.
The horror deconstruction.